Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cats and Bolts podcast. 3, 2, and 1.
Nice work, Benjamin Castro, the producer to the stars. You can follow him on Instagram at Ben Castro. Welcome, everybody, to Florida's favorite hockey show, the Cats and Bolts podcast, emanating live from the beautiful Podcast Junkie Studios in downtown Boca Raton, Florida. It's season 2, episode 3. We always like to have a title for the program. Ben, you can write it down. Media Day and Training Camp episode. That's what it is here on episode 3 of the season, this 24-25 National Hockey League season. I am one half of the program, Rod Peterson. She is the other half of the program, Serena Taylor. And today, you could also, Serena, call this a dog's breakfast. I'm sure this doesn't surprise you, but we've got Media Day highlights, viewer questions, previews, and all the rest. But overall, I'll just say, hey, are you getting really ready for hockey season, or where are you at? As we're like less than a month away now.
It still goes to our conversation last week where I'm not obsessed with training camp. I don't really get that buzz until kind of the season starts. I think part of it for me is the television broadcast. You know, growing up, we were always so excited for the home openers. And the opening weekend of Hockey Night in Canada was like, oh my God, I can't wait. It's been 4 months or whatever. So that's usually what I like to get jazzed up about. So I don't know.
It's October 8th is the home opener for the Florida Panthers when they will be raising the banner. The Boston Bruins are here, just to throw that out there. And the Lightning are on the road, which is kind of anticlimactic for their regular season opener. But it is what it is. And I guess I got about 10 points here. So I'm going to start with the opening one, Media Day, not just here in Florida, but across the National Hockey League. There's a lot of tidbits that came out. And I'm going to start, Serena, we're going to get heavy. We're going to get light with things. We're going to start light.
Okay.
The Toronto Maple Leafs announcing, because we'll get to our Cats and Bolts news too, but the Leafs announcing that Oreo Cookies is sponsoring them this year, and they're going to have an Oreos logo on their helmets.
Probably to match the Milk one on their jerseys.
Right.
Hey!
Right. Yeah, because they've been sponsored by Milk for a lot of years, the Toronto Maple Leafs on their jersey, but now it's Oreos. Now, can you imagine the jokes that are coming out from fans across the National Hockey League? What would be your first off the top of your head?
Joke-wise, I don't know.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I mean, I've been listening to it all day. She just came in here from after working all day. Well, they're saying they should be sponsored by Crumble Cookies because they crumbled in the playoffs.
That is actually pretty funny.
And that's literally like the only. There were several other ones. Somebody said maybe the Leafs will be Cookie Monsters this year, which I don't think
Did
so.
Did a 5-year-old say that? I don't even know what that means.
I know. I can't remember where the guy was. Who was your favorite Sesame Street character?
Big Bird or Oscar the Grouch?
Oscar the Grouch right here.
Yeah, I like Big
sure.
Bird, though.
Okay.
Well, actually, no. Snuffleupagus was my favorite.
Wow.
There we go.
You too, Benny?
You're
like the Snuffleupagus of this show.
I did like the Snuffleupagus.
Yeah, I love Snuffleupagus.
They're all great. But, Oscar the Grouch here and Snuffleupagus. Okay, to some somewhat serious stuff, but not really. Point 2, the Tampa Bay Lightning taking Wednesday's Media Day to announce that Victor Hedman will be the 11th captain in Tampa Bay Lightning history. Shocking, not shocking? What do you think?
I don't think it's shocking. I mean, I don't know what he's like in the dressing room, but I feel like Hedman's been around there for so long, and not knowing if he's a leader in the dressing room or not, he's clearly a leader on the ice. You know, he's Victor Hedman, for God's sake. And I don't know who else would even qualify to be a captain on that team that would be a complete standout. They probably have some guys that might be in the running. They're going to have a lot of really good assistant captains, but I think Hedman is absolutely the captain there.
A couple things on the Lightning. Number 1, Blake Dodge, this is your jersey over my shoulder. Dwayne Rollison, vintage Tampa Bay Lightning, whatever the year. Do you want it back?
Not getting it back.
Okay, because how long ago did he give it to us? A year ago?
I don't know, but he just donated it. He doesn't even know.
Blake, you're not getting it back. Number 2, last year in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup playoffs at American Bank Arena, Lightning at Panthers. And by the way, we have a lot of Lightning fans that watch this show because they tell me. If you remember, somebody termed it a clapper. Hedman's goal, I think it was top shelf over Bob. Somebody said, he's still got it, Hedman. Because I know you've had some issues about him slowing down and stuff, that he's not the same player that he used to be. How much tread's left on that tire of Victor Hedman, do you think?
Well, I think from a physiological, athletic standpoint, the reason Victor Hedman is slower than he used to be is because he carries so much weight. when you're that big, it takes a lot more energy to move that size of a body. So he's not in his 20s anymore. He's not a spring chicken. That's why he's slowing down a bit, but it's just because of his size. There's guys out there like my dad. I saw my dad slow down, but he still had the skill. You don't lose the skill, right? It's just more of like, how long can he be effective on one time at the ice? So is he slowing down? I don't know. He's just kind of slower because of his size, but what do I think he's got left in the tank? I hope he ends his career with Tampa, but I think he's going to be one of those guys that maybe puts in a couple more years and then a move will be made.
Yeah, well, really.
While they can still get something for him.
Steven Stamkos, who they lost for nothing. But like I say, I just look at those two as Bert and Ernie, to use a Sesame Street theme here. Like it just seems weird. And Hedman addressed it at the end of the season when Stamkos left. He addressed it last week. It's just weird for him. I just don't think the Lightning are going to do that much. You still think they're going to make the playoffs this year?
I never count them out.
Okay,
it's like
fair.
Detroit.
Until they're not all that, they're still going to be
100%. It's not like their whole team got completely overhauled here. Let's be honest. And like I said, I think we had this conversation. I know it was off the air for sure. The Tampa Bay Lightning won a lot of games without Steve Stamkos over the last decade that he was hurt off and on. So, and yes, they're a different team now, but they're not useless. I think they have a great core of players.
They have not missed the playoffs since 2017. It's in my column in the South Florida Tribune, came out on Wednesday. George Eichhorn, one of the writers with the Tribune, with the Trib, said, bold prediction, Rod saying the Lightning will miss the playoffs. No, I actually think it. I think they're going to miss Stamkos a lot sooner than everybody expected. And my God, we've been kicking that around all summer. So moving on to point 3. Media tour around the National Hockey League up in Columbus. The Blue Jackets are still mourning. They're still hurting, and they will be forever as far as the Johnny Gaudreau thing happens with him and his brother Matthew being killed a couple weeks ago by a suspected drunken driver. The Blue Jackets saying today that they will leave Johnny's jersey up in his stall for the whole season. Thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't do that, but to be perfectly honest, I think Calgary's going to feel it more than Columbus does. That was a bigger loss to the Calgary Flames. Columbus lost a player and it was fresh and whatever. But look at what's going on in Calgary. Those people are just, they came out with this whole thing of, I don't know if you saw this or not, but where they were going to donate all the stuff that people left at the rink, donating hockey sticks to, different charities and stuff like that. And there was a way bigger deal in Calgary. So while the players in Columbus are going to feel it, there's a lot of players in Calgary that played with him for a long time. So I guess it's the right thing to leave the jersey up. I mean, why wouldn't you? But it's just going to help motivate the players.
Well, as you all probably should know by now, Serena is a nutrition and fitness coach. I'm a grief recovery coach, trauma, stress, all that. There's no proper way to grieve. So if they want to put the jersey up, put the jersey up, whatever it takes, whatever makes you feel better. But for how long? It's only they will know. There's no right way to do this. But with that said, and by the way, Serena's right. He played in Calgary 2013 to 2022. That's like 9 seasons. A couple in Columbus. He's loved in both places. And he's also, as we learned in rolling over to point 4, loved in Fort Lauderdale by at least Matthew Tkachuk. Because at the Panthers media day, he addressed, I think the quote was that he has been telling stories about Johnny Gaudreau every day since his death. What he was like as a person, what he was like as a player. And he said he was the most skilled player offensively he'd ever been around. And if Matthew,
because he's an American.
Well, they're buddies, lifelong buddies, played together internationally and so forth. Obviously, Chucky's not going to say that if he doesn't believe that. But that's quite a thing to say when you were raised in an NHL dressing room when your dad's Keith Tkachuk. Right? I'm saying he's been around a lot of great offensive players.
I think he's more talking about who he played with. That would be the gist of that's what I would think. These poor guys, they got to put this to bed. It's time to start training camp. Can you imagine how many times a guy like Matthew Tkachuk has been asked the same question in the last 2-3 weeks about this tragedy? I get it, but guys, let's move on. No, why are we rehashing this? They don't want to talk about this. This is his opening day. He's already answered this question 1 million times. Let's let it go.
Well, that was the story coming out of Panthers Media Day on Wednesday, first day of training camp. I'm with you on that. Who knows how long it's going to be brought up. But to be honest, the media asks some odd questions. But this one probably...
Especially when they don't know anything about the actual game.
This is to Florida, or staying with Florida. Paul Maurice said he has had a peaceful summer. And I enjoyed reading that story because I would think it would be. You just won the Stanley Cup.
Well,
it'd be a pretty good summer.
Not to mention the fact that he just can get away. You know, I think once you win versus when you've never won, it's just that switch. It's just a switch. You can't unwin the Stanley Cup. And now he's just like, everybody can just leave me alone. Because can you imagine the pressure? I always say this, the pressure he had in Winnipeg. You can't be in Winnipeg in July and not be talking about hockey. You can't. You know, he probably holed up in his cabin or something somewhere all summer and just was like, I'm going to put my feet up because it doesn't matter if we only win 25 games next year. I did what I was paid to do. No more pressure. Pressure's off.
Forever or just temporarily?
In the immediate future, obviously, if they win 25 games, it's going to be a problem. But just to go into training camp and be relaxed has to be the best feeling in the world. Why wouldn't you feel good about that? You know, you look at the one side of this, he's going like this. You look at Edmonton, there's not a team that's under more pressure than the Edmonton Oilers right now. Not one team.
The Leafs always will be.
Yeah, but the immediate, like, people are expecting. It was like that close, right? So people are expecting it. Now they're really, really after it. You've got this, you know, situation with McDavid and Draisaitl never wanting to, quote unquote, never wanting to leave each other's side. They're going to do everything in their power. Would you ever remember players talking like that? I don't care what it takes. I want to play with this person for the rest of my life.
Sounds nice. Which, by the way, stop the presses. I got to move all the way down to point 8. Okay. The biggest news of the week was Sidney Crosby signing a 2-year extension with the Penguins, $8.7 million per season. His jersey number is 87. He was born 08-07 in 1987. And I forgot, I'd never even brought this up with you, like off the air or on. He said, I saw the clip on Spit and Chicklin's Instagram. They said, Sidney, why would you not take more money, see what's out there in free agency? And he goes, because I think winning is the most important thing. It's the page from the Tom Brady handbook where he did it in New England and he did it in Tampa Bay. I'll take less to spend more money at other positions to make us better. My point on my show, the Rod Peterson show that I do daily, was how does it make the people like Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl look that they're battling to be the highest paid in the league versus a guy like Sid saying...
Here's the difference. Sid's at the end of his career. He knows he's not signing a 10-year deal right now. So he's like, all right, listen, I've done my thing. I'm good with just 2 years at blah, 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 blah. Would you agree with that?
I'm not looking for an argument.
No. But this is what I'm saying. But now I want to bring up the point of Steve Stamkos. I was the one that said he could have taken less money if he wanted to stay. And everybody's like, that's stupid. And now Crosby's a hero for doing it.
He's still taking 8.7. Stamkos was offered 3.5
but
from the Lightning. That's less than half.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I get your point. The concept's the same.
Sid took 8.7 because of the number. It was a media thing.
Yes and no. Not looking for a fight. Write it down. I was not looking for a fight here.
I am.
No, you're always looking for a fight.
Because it's getting boring.
You're welcome to host anytime.
I try. I'm like, hey, I can take care of it. Nope.
One time she offered.
Next time I'm doing it.
Out of like 40 shows. Anyways.
Next week, and he's going to sit there and shut up, and I'm going to have control of that bell, and that's the way it's going to be. Okay, we'll see.
Anyways, the thing with Sid, I swear to God, we don't even argue at home. Deal or no deal.
That's
we don't
a clip.
even argue. What?
That's a clip.
Which Ben's like,
if you want to get us to start an argument at home, bring up the name Jordan Eberle. That will start an argument in certain circles.
There's a lot of other names. Ryan Smith.
Oh, no, I'm not going there
here.
again. Okay.
Anyways, with Crosby taking less money, I'm not going down the same road as you, but I understand what you're saying. Because have you seen him? You follow, I don't know where she gets her hockey information, but you follow a lot of the same accounts that I do. And he is being hailed as a hero for taking less money.
Yeah.
You're seeing that, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's leaving more money on the table for the salary cap.
Yeah.
Gives them more opportunity to use it somewhere else.
Right. So when you say the end of his career, that's also true, but I think McDavid's going into year 8. And Leon's been around for quite a while,
Leon's
too.
28 years old. Sid's
It's 10 years younger.
years old.
He's 37. I more than anything was just throwing it out as a rhetorical question, i.e., how does it make those look? It is apples and oranges, right? Well, Austin Matthews, I guess, is in the same boat. Like, he was the highest paid player in the NHL for a month till Leon is.
That one still shocks the hell out of me that, A, the Leafs would pay him that much money when they haven't done shit. They haven't won anything. 2, he's not that good. 3, I can't believe he stayed in Toronto.
I can't either.
I'm
stunned,
blown away.
actually.
Yeah, and good for him. But what I said about that whole thing was I admire his loyalty. You know, maybe they spoke about different things and his agent got on the phone with different teams and decided, hey, listen, maybe, just maybe, nobody else is going to pay that much money. So we better take what we can get and we'll go from there. That would be my guess. But he decided to stay. And I honestly didn't think he would because as an American-born player in Toronto, I don't know how he would handle the pressure.
Gotcha. And I got you, Ben. Yeah. So I think we put the Sydney thing to bed.
Yeah, I'm done with it.
Okay. Ben has to go answer the door. He does it all around here. Benjamin Castro.
Did he just text you and tell you he has to?
Yeah. While you were talking, I'm like, can you talk a little longer,
Ben, just
please?
tell us. I got to go answer the door. This is very informal.
Where is he? He's on his way in? Okay.
They're about to come in.
Fantastic.
Some live audience.
Yeah.
And there's a dog training place next door, a puppy training place. If that guy could come in here, that would be great.
Can we throw... Hey, he's not in here yet. Can we throw him on unexpectedly? Can you do that? Do you have the wherewithal to do that? Or not?
Okay.
You're thinking about it?
What I'll do is I'll move my camera to the couch so we can sometimes have the couch. We do the couch view. I'll show you real quick.
I love that this is live and we're just
look,
just winging
I
it.
literally
see the
don't
couch
care.
view?
No, but I want him. I want to interview him.
Oh, you want to have him on?
Yeah. Can you do that or not?
I can ask him.
You go ask
Okay.
him. We're going to talk.
Okay.
Okay. What else,
Because I have a
Robbie?
question. Because he is a Miami sportscasting legend, Jeff De Forrest. A lot of you will know his name. Some may not. So moving on, we this is point 6. Our NHL media tour stops in Calgary. Mackenzie Weegar addressed being traded by the Florida Panthers and watching the Panthers win the Stanley Cup while he's with the Calgary Flames. It's kind of Huberdeau 2.0, other than he didn't come out and be on. Well, no, he might have been honest. He didn't say what Huberdeau said, where Huberdeau said, yeah, it hurt, which I respect his honesty. Mackenzie Weegar was like, I'm over it, and I'm committed to the Calgary Flames to win here. And to be honest, you can go to rodpeterson.com and read the article right now. Mackenzie Weegar was a great Florida Panther for a long time. He's a hell of a hockey player.
Incredible.
The thing is, to get something, folks, you have to give something up. So if they thought a lot of Matthew Tkachuk, they knew they were going to have to give up a lot, and they did. And Mackenzie Weegar he wasn't a throw-in. He was a very key part of that trade. You know?
Yeah, that's the one player. He was one player that I remember telling Flames fans, whatever, not that I would have a lot of conversations with them, but how Mackenzie Weegar is very underrated because keep in mind that there's a lot of people in Canada, especially Western Canada, that would not watch the Florida Panthers. Growing up, we didn't watch. I like to watch guys like Jay Bouwmeester and Jovo and stuff like that, but for the most part, we don't watch the Florida Panthers. Like, you guys are missing out. Just wait until he gets here. He's so good.
Somebody will correct me on this. I apologize. It's kind of a new stat, but I believe Mackenzie Weegar was the first player in NHL history. I don't know what the actual numbers were, but to score 20 goals and block 200 shots. Something like that's not insignificant. I don't know if you remember, whatever that record is for most goals and most blocked shots is a big deal. So basically for him to say I'm over the Florida trade, I believe him. I mean, I don't know him personally, but our Flames friends know they'd love him. Like, he seems to be that kind of guy. But he also talked about committing to that franchise with other veterans bolting. But I will say this about the Calgary Flames, because we do have a lot of viewers up there in Alberta. They're picked to be the worst team in Canada. Last place in the Pacific Division is where I have them, and they are a real dog's breakfast of a roster. Nazem Kadri, Stanley Cup champ, making a lot of money. Huberdeau making 10.5. Blake Coleman, former Lightning, who won a Stanley Cup, is up there. But just what are they going to surprise us all or not? What do you think of that roster?
No, I think that they just don't have strong enough. I don't think their goaltender wants to even be there, which is pretty tough if you have a goalie that doesn't want to be there. And I mean, I don't know. Just things that we've heard and seen and whatever. And then they trade away, what's his name, the defenseman to Vancouver last year.
Oh, Zadorov and Tanev's gone. All those guys.
So those were strong defensemen that they had, and all of a sudden they get rid of them, and they really don't replace them. So they've been cycling through their defensemen. They've been cycling through everybody, and they don't have strong enough players, I don't think, to make a dent.
There you go. There's the answer on the Calgary Flames. You let us know, Benny, when we're going to make this happen. I promised a viewer question. And Jeff Pearson, you know him?
I do know Jeff.
Wrote in this morning, and I don't know if you're the one to ask this to. I think I can answer it, but he said, which newcomer will make the Florida Panthers? Because I added it up. 9 Panthers are gone from last year, and I think we're officially turning the page and saying, we're done naming them. But they just came out of the rookie showcase last weekend in Nashville. I say rookie tournaments are it's like puppy love. Nobody takes it serious but the puppies. Nobody really cared about the rookie tournament, except the players, because I was talking to their families, and some of their families were coming down. Nate Schmidt is a guy that was signed in free agency, a original Vegas Golden Knight, but he's an NHL vet. He's made the team. Josh Davies took the Portland Winterhawks to the Western Hockey League Championship last year against Moose Jaw. I think he's got a chance to make the team. And Grayson Sachin from the Edmonton Oil Kings scored a highlight reel goal in Nashville against Tampa Bay in a 5-2 loss. He was on the top line in the rookie camp. So I'm going to say one of Josh Davies or Grayson Sachin, or maybe both, because they got 9 guys to replace.
Yeah, I think Davies, from what we saw of him last year playing junior, I think he's qualified to play in the National Hockey League. He kind of reminds me of Mason McTavish. Mason McTavish had the opportunity to play in Anaheim, but Anaheim was a basement team. Florida's a Stanley Cup winning team. So is Davies going to be able to crack it? Yeah, they have 9 guys that they need to replace. I don't know. Maybe he will at the start, but it's a different animal than guys like Mason McTavish that get drafted really high and have a good junior career, and then they go on to play on a team that is struggling. Connor Bedard, another good example, right? Obviously, he was going to play anyway, but it's just on a struggling team. So that's an apples and oranges conversation too.
Yes. You will love, though, Jeff. We'll see. You watch the preseason. That's what it's for. But Josh Davies from Airdrie, Alberta. Grayson Sachin from Grand Prairie, Alberta. You're seeing the Les Jackson influence on the Florida Panthers.
Wow.
Western Canadian kids on the roster.
And how can you argue with Les Jackson? He's been so successful at various points in his career. You can see it, but it's the same thing. It's the Kelly McCrimmon thing of all these Western guys, and I don't know why more teams don't do that. Get guys that play in the Western Hockey League. In St. Louis, their general manager is not picking guys that played college hockey because college hockey's boring and it's not as talented. He gets guys that are rough and tumble, that know how to play hockey at a competitive level, that can get their asses handed to them and still come away with the puck. That's the difference between college and junior.
Yeah, and Florida Panthers didn't have a lot of Western Canadian kids on their team last year. However, Matthew Tkachuk played in London in the OHL. Right, he's a major junior guy. Sam Bennett is an OHL guy. So they're not from the West, but they still came from the route that we like. Okay, are we going to make this happen?
Yeah.
Jeff
yeah.
Defo, get on in. Everybody, you know him, you love him. Jeff DeForest. Do you know how to work a microphone, Jeff? You'll know Serena the second you hear this dude's voice. That he's legit, as they say. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great.
Good to see you. All right, get in here. I saw an ad with you the other day. Oh,
you didn't see that old one where I was a Durango kid and I was walking around in a cowboy outfit?
No. I saw that ad. Well, it was an ad of all these Miami broadcasters. I want to say it's from the early 90s, late 80s, and I'm sure there was a ton of photos that we were in. Would you mind introducing yourself, Jeff, to our Cats and Bolts audience? If you don't
Well,
mind?
I mean, great to be on with you guys. I'm listening here on the side with my friend Scotty M, who's up next here with his gambling show, and I'm thinking, wow, these guys know their stuff. My God.
We
This is
fooled him.
fantastic.
We
Yeah.
got him, Serena.
I go way back, though, with the Panthers. I mean, all the way back to the original press conference. Burton Jacks. You had, all of the big brass there. Bill Torrey, Bobby Clark. You had Roger Nielsen. Wayne was there, and they were announcing that they were going to do this hockey thing. And we thought, what is this going to amount to? And then really kind of a very promising first year with a bunch of guys that really endeared themselves to the community. People were speculating forever whether hockey would work here, and the big joke was the only ice you see in South Florida is at the bottom of a martini glass. Right. And sure enough, I mean, it caught on. It took a couple of years. They made their way into the Stanley Cup final that third season. It was absolutely amazing. And to win the Stanley Cup, I couldn't be any more elated than I was to see the championship celebration and the way these guys kind of captured the imagination of the community after, about 30 years of pursuing the coveted cup.
Well, literally, when Ben texted me, he's like, do you mind if Jeff DeForest comes in? I'm like, do I mind? We're putting him on the air. Yeah. Serena, go ahead. I'm sure you got $1 million for this guy.
Well, actually, my question for you is not so much hockey related, but just tell us a little bit about how you got into broadcasting in South Florida and what your favorite sports have been and favorite events have been to cover.
Well, I was always kind of a universal sports fan. I like all sports. I was really oriented towards, and the reason Scotty M has me on his gambling show is because I was oriented towards degenerate sports like horse racing and boxing. Now gambling's the biggest thing going out there. But I came to South Florida on a lark. I was working in Los Angeles. I was a newspaper writer. I was noticing that all the people in the electronic media were driving fancy cars and seemed to be living a life that was well above the means of the average ink-stained wretch. And so I tried to get in. I always had a fascination with radio, and I started doing radio out in California, and I was working kind of on the side at a big station out there, KFWB, just to try and get my foot in the door in the major market. California at the time had a radio station in every little town, so it was easy to get a job somewhere. And while I was working there, a guy said, you know what, if you really want to make it, you should go to Miami. You can get a job right up the street. And, you'd be better off going to a major market like that and getting on the air than hanging out here forever and trying to knock on the door and you'll never break it down. So I did. I just came on a whim. I threw everything in the car. This was 1981. And still, 1982, one of my favorite events I ever covered here, I got to know just arbitrarily by luck through my boxing connections, Alexis Arguello. And in 1982 at the Orange Bowl, of course, he fought Aaron Pryor in one of the biggest sporting events that ever took place here. But I was a huge hockey fan. I got to see Marcel Dion and that great line with the LA Kings. Nobody used to go to the Kings games, even though they had those terrific players.
Now you got him going, sir.
They had Rogie Vachon, in
Rogation
goal.
Vachon. Yeah.
I love Rogation Vachon. He was fantastic. And
français.
But the hockey fans weren't there in Los Angeles. They're a very indifferent group. They were big baseball fans. So I was happy to see it come here. Everybody was questioning whether or not baseball would work here, hockey would work here. The NBA you thought was going to make it. So really nice to see the way the fans responded. And look, the Panthers turned out to be a quality organization. And then this new ownership with Vinny Viola, they've really done most of the things that they promised they would do in terms of personnel. And this Mike Zito is my third favorite Zito behind Nick Zito and Mike Zito's a musician. Bill Zito. Bill Zito. Yeah. Barry Zito, the pitcher.
Yeah.
Baseball player. Yeah.
What
he's number 2.
What a great job this guy's done, huh? I mean, as a sports executive, he's been fantastic.
Pretty hard to criticize literally anything he's done in 4 years.
He's been maybe the most effective sports executive here since Dave Dombrowski
there you go.
got the Marlins a championship. And, going back when the Dolphins were good.
Good point.
But to answer your question, I mean, I came here on a whim, got a job, as the guy suggested, right away off the streets, and didn't realize, I mean, the one thing he didn't tell me was that the jobs didn't pay anything here.
They don't pay
So I started doing a lot of independent
they don't
stuff.
pay anywhere, Jeff.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Benny, this is the one I want to know. Jeff DeForest, Miami sportscasting legend. What does it mean to South Florida for the Panthers to win the Stanley Cup? I get it all the time, but you'd be the best guy to Answer that.
It consolidated a lot of things, especially since there's been so much frustration with teams. It's interesting. The Marlins this year, a disaster. You're wondering. I was just talking to a friend of mine. He's a big baseball fan. And I was saying, the worst job that you could have in sports right now is to be in the boiler room of the Marlins trying to peddle season tickets for next year. And winning the title really validated everything that the Panthers have been trying to do. I still have haunting in my head the cries of, shoot the puck, Kozlov, shoot the puck. We always thought we were on the threshold of having a team that would win a championship. I was a big Jonathan Huberdeau fan, but if you look at what Zito did in making that deal for Tkachuk, tremendous move, took a lot of balls, and you have to make bold moves if you're going to win. And then he consolidated that by coming back with some strong moves this year, bringing in guys that were somewhat nondescript to the average sports fan, but wow, what contributors. And what was really impressive was the mentality of the players on the team. And, even when they were interviewing guys that were deep on the depth chart, way down on the depth chart, after the Stanley Cup was won, you thought, wow, these guys are all very impressive people. So, it was really good to see. I think it meant the world because it really validated the whole 30-year history of the Florida Panthers franchise. And now, look, they're the hottest team in town right now with the Dolphins in disarray and the other teams are still struggling to recapture the glory that they had in the past.
I think that's what happens. And you can speak probably better to this because you were around when the Dolphins were really good and the Marlins. When you win, and then you falter for a long time, it's hard to bring that fan base back.
Mired in mediocrity is the phrase we used over and over again on the airwaves for many, many years. And it seemed like, and that's the one thing you don't want to be, if you're going to lose, at least be exciting. And, the Panthers offered some of that, even when they weren't quite getting over the final barrier there to win the Stanley Cup. And when you look at it, and it is true, it's cliche for a lot of sportscasters, because all of a sudden everybody's a hockey expert once the playoffs roll around, even though most people haven't seen a game all year long, and they're like, oh, what are you kidding me? They got to pull Bobrovsky. And everybody's going nuts, and they all have a strong opinion on this.
Do they? Believe me, I know.
Yeah, I mean, look at this clown. What kind of, garbage is that? You can't stop a watermelon, and people all become experts at that point. But, it's just great to see when it actually works out. And you realize it's not cliche. The most difficult championship by far in all of team sports to win is the Stanley Cup. Look at what a bloodbath it was, not just this year, but even the year prior when they had to go against the Golden Knights. And guys are playing with a broken back. They're coming to the arena in a wheelchair, and they're still playing. And that wasn't even good enough to win the championship, that kind of effort. And then they retool the team a little bit, and they do it. It was absolutely fantastic. One of the most euphoric things we've seen in sports down here in a long time.
One of the things I hear about a lot and I see is the Panthers still having to fight for their spot in the marketplace for exposure. You're the perfect guy to ask about that. Is it better now than it? I can't imagine being worse. Like, they're behind high school sports in a lot of ways now for ink and talk.
Well, I mean, the newspapers have dried up. That's a big factor. They used to remember when they had the audacity to say, we don't want to take ads from Hooters. Now, they've got hookers, just taking full-page ads out. Yeah. There's no coverage. It's a shame. And this was a sport that we didn't have a great orientation towards here in South Florida. People come from all over, and they were fans of other teams, but they weren't necessarily Panther fans, and it takes a while to build that tradition. But I don't know that they're ever going to be, recognized to the degree that, say, football teams are here, but they certainly made a lot of strides, and look how great it was. One of the things they did in the beginning that was terrific, they really, kind of ingratiated themselves and, put themselves inside the community. I remember doing a zillion events. One time, one of the most impressive things I've seen down here, the Beezer was doing an autograph session on Fort Lauderdale Beach, and I pulled up in my car. I was supposed to do something with it, like co-host it or whatever, and I couldn't even get a space. And people were lined up like for miles around the block, and you thought, wow, this is for a hockey team. And then that sort of faded for a little while when they weren't doing so well, but maybe it'll come back. And the way they handled things with the Stanley Cup, I think I ate paella out of the Stanley Cup. Our friend Reno Sorbonne had the famous bouillabaisse pasta that we were eating out of the Stanley Cup. I mean, they did a great job marketing that and promoting that. And I think you're going to see a big surge in interest in the team in the next year or two. I really do.
So that answers the question of what it did to win the Stanley Cup. It exploded.
I think so. Yeah.
So you got to win. Then you got to win.
People love a winner.
Yeah, because you don't even hear about the Marlins.
It's funny because doing sports talk for so many years, you always thought negativity was the big thing. Like you were better off. I used to root, quietly for teams to lose, even though I was fans of the team and I knew a lot of people on all of the teams. But it was better for me if they lost, I thought, because more people would call in and express their anger. Yeah. But it's just the opposite is actually true. People really want to ride the back of a winner. And I think you'll see a big surge in interest in his team. You with the Lightning connection, though, that's fantastic. I mean, talk about a well-run franchise.
Oh, yeah.
I was there when they broke ground for the arena, and Phil Esposito was, kind of the head guy there. And I'll never forget this. I was working it was Sunshine Network at the time, and now it's Bally Sports Sun, and they own both of the networks. But they sent us up there to do the groundbreaking ceremony, which is not exactly the most exciting assignment you could draw. And the whole time we're there, they're saying, listen, there's no Japanese money in here, no Japanese money, and there's no Japanese investment. They're denying this to the press. About 5 minutes after the ceremony, they dig the shovel in the ground. We go to a luncheon, and it's sushi being served, but by the Japanese government.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So it's not easy to make it as a franchise, and you have to go through a lot of stuff. So it's nice to see that it's come to this level.
Well,
where
Serena can
have two
attest.
really good franchises.
She's been here going on 8 years now. Mm-hmm. The one thing about the Panthers fans that bothered them, that they always felt like little brother to the Lightning, and for obvious reasons, but they're not anymore. They've got the belt now.
Well-run franchise. I mean, the Lightning have to be, greatly respected, much like, oddly, the Tampa Bay Rays in this market, where you could blow by the stadium there and think that maybe they called in a bomb scare or something. There's nobody there. I guess, do they still call it the Blunderdome? It was the Thunderdome at one time. And, no interest whatsoever in the sports, and yet Tampa's not a terrible sports town, but I don't know that year where they got swept in the first round a couple of years ago, did that kind of sour people on the franchise?
Well, as you say, at least they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, but you got to win. As you say, you got to win. They have won, but not consistently. So I don't know. Anything else for this gentleman? Before
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Listen, it's a God
great
shot.
being on an unbelievable sports show.
It's a God
shot
shot that you dropped out of the sky to join us, Jeff, and I knew you'd be great, man. So
it's a pleasure. I really
it.
enjoyed it because I was listening on the side here, and I'm thinking these guys are great, man.
Okay, well,
talking
thank you.
about like some minor league hockey player that's in junior.
From Alberta, yeah. Believe it or not, they like
I don't
it.
even know if I could name you 3 guys on the Lightning besides Kucherov.
Yeah, I got it. Well, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Betty Boyd. We got Jeff Pearson's question in. I was dying to get that in, and you good?
I am.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week right here on Cats and Bolts. Yeah, no. Don't move on.